we've experienced a huge amount of change over the course of the last 20 years. It's sort of an accelerated rate of change over that period. And it's forced us quite rightly to properly think about how each of these different choices relate to each other. I think there's 4 kind of key themes. I think we've got climate change, which is affecting how our cities need to adapt to deal with climatic shock, become more climatically resilient, particularly when it comes to flooding, but also high temperatures in the summer. I think with that, we've also got things around energy security that are a bigger threat now than they've ever been. In addition to that, we've also got significant factors like COVID that have fundamentally changed how people expected to live their lives. We've certainly working from home has been properly socialized in light of COVID, which has fundamentally changed the way people think about their neighborhoods and where they spend their time, not wanting to commute. That's been really, really critical. And of course, what underpins all of that is technology and digital innovation. And that certainly is only accelerating in terms of pace. So when you start to bring all those things together and what that means to the built environment, it's actually what type of lifestyles do people want to live? And how does that provide them? What does the built environment need to do to adapt and to respond to provide people with healthier, happier spaces?
I think system thinking is both the answer and the solution, and the approach. I think that the approach of system thinking is about holistic, a view of holistic, how you approach challenges. I think MIPIM this week has been really interesting. It's been really positive. I think the private-public partnerships that people are proposing and piloting, particularly in Glasgow City at the moment, in terms of housing developments and how we move things forward to address the housing emergency, I think we need that holistic approach.
The timescales that we're talking about for meaningful positive regeneration is quite often typically measured in decades, and that's well beyond any ordinary political cycle. And when you're investing in infrastructure in particular and placing that money into the bone structure of a place, it takes time and patient capital for that value to be realized to then allow onward development, new development, housing, homes, schools, libraries, all those other critical components to come forward. So having something that's uncoupled from perhaps what can be temperamental when it comes to the political cycles is really valuable and important.
I think it's absolutely critical. I think that the collaboration between private and public partnership is absolutely something that needs to be embraced. It is something that the cities are looking at. Glasgow in particular, we've been working on the Cowlairs project with Aviva, Place Capital, Glasgow City Council. And what that does is that allows resources and innovation to come in from the private sector.
In terms of adapting existing buildings, which is essential, it is a cliche, but the biggest volume of houses that we're going to experience are those that already exist. That's just a fact. So how we repurpose them and how we adapt them is ever more critical. And there are, with a degree of imagination and creativity, it is entirely possible to do that. And certainly when we look at different techniques and methods, baking in important issues like the Building Safety Act and ensuring that those aspects are properly incorporated into these adapted and repurposed buildings.
I think Scotland at the moment is quite attractive to investors because of the SER, the Structural Engineering Register, and that is a holistic view. It takes on board risk assessments of the different types of buildings, the type of occupancy that they're using, and that is a real potential opportunity for Scotland at the moment where the Building Safety Act is holding back certain developments. That said, I think there's some real great opportunities in terms of retrofit in London and wider, and that's just in terms of buildings, in terms of regeneration of public realm, reuse of materials, looking at how we can build in sustainable drainage into our systems, connectivity. All of these things are really important in how we create places.
A delicate issue for a lot of governments and politicians is actually how our cities have evolved largely on the back of autocentric choices over the last 50, 60 years. And what has emerged from that is the limiting factor in how that impacts on the health and experience of people in cities and in settlements and in neighborhoods, that sometimes the domination of cars in residential or urban environments in particular, and there's a lot of complexity, there's a lot of nuance at this point. So rural locations and places that don't have good access to public transport are a different category. But those urban areas like Liverpool, like Leeds, like Manchester, and obviously like London, do have those resources available to them, as does Glasgow and Edinburgh. There's an absolute need for more of that and to build on the networks that are already there, but actually doing so such that it makes it much more attractive for walking and cycling and wheeling to be the automatic first choice for the people in these neighborhoods. And that fundamentally changes our perception of distance and how far we then have to travel to access different things. And if we can compress those distances and provide that access within a journey or a lifestyle of journeys of short trip journeys, it does mean that the spatial planning and urban design of those settlements can be more compact and therefore more human orientated.